I'm here on the 16th of April with Joyce Callas and his son Richard, and you're in Providence, are you?
We're in Middletown, Rhode Island.
Middletown. Okay, I'll fix that. So anyway, and you are two of the first parishioners of the new church.
Yes,
So Joyce, you married Lou,
correct.
and Lou was from. He
From
was.
where?
Yeah,
He
was
was
he
from
born?
Boston.
Yeah,
He was
but he
from
was
Boston.
born in New York, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
But the family comes from outside of Kalamata,
Right.
Right.
the Kalapothakis, yes.
Papa Kalapathakis, as I noted in the email, he had served in the Second Balkan War,
Yes.
fought the Bulgarians, was wounded, and after the First World War started, he was already through the seminary, and so he emigrated to the United States. And then after the war, Nicoletta came and joined him in New York. Now, they had three children. The oldest was
Oh,
George,
George.
and I think he was born in Greece and came over with Nicoletta.
Right.
And he unfortunately was killed as a young teenager in a
Oh.
bus.
On the streets of New York.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then who was the second?
The second was
Was
my
Lou.
father,
Lou? Yeah.
Elias, yes,
Elias? Yes.
1921.
Yes.
And then the third was Stella, and she was born in 1929. And I believe also in New York. In around that time, the family moved from New York to Boston.
I see.
I
And
remember my father was at Boston Latin School
yes.
in 1933.
Now, Joyce, where did you marry Lou?
I married Lou in Boston, and we were married by Monty Baspis, who came, a Greek man who came from Manchester, New Hampshire.
And he was the priest at which church?
No, he was not a priest. We were married by a,
Oh,
The mayor of Newton.
eventually the Newton. But then we did marry in the Greek church in December of 1955.
okay.
Yes,
And which church?
at the cathedral in Boston.
I think, yeah, the Cathedral in Boston. Now, and then how did you connect? How did you link up with the Saint Demetrius?
Well, we lived in Newton, Mass, and that's when all of the activity started with getting a new church. Because in 1959, there was a lot of activity going on, and even before that. And I can remember Lou, going off to put things together, to talk about stuff, and so forth. And he really did a lot of the preliminary work and also all of the legal work. He was the lawyer that took care of everything.
Ah, good to know. I did not know that he was a lawyer.
Yes, he was a lawyer. He was also Assistant Attorney General of Massachusetts.
Well, wonderful to hear. And then you met your first regular priest, which was Bluguras.
Yeah.
There were a couple of others ahead of him, but then Bluguras came and stayed for a couple of years, and then was moved on, etc., etc. And what do you remember? Do you remember the picnics that they had at the time?
Picnics. There's so many things going on.
Yeah.
Trying to pull everybody together. It was Lou was wonderful in gathering all of these men together to put a church together. He was, I swear, he was the most important person in putting St. Demetrius together.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. And then you remember Lee Loomis?
Oh, yes.
Ah, yes, and he allowed the Sunday school to meet at his shop, which was very close to the church.
Yes.
I heard that. And then, Richard, what do you remember about the Goyans then?
Well, I I don't remember much of the Goyans back then. Was not necessarily heavily involved, but later on when they established the young adult
Yes,
organization
yes, yes.
in the 70s, I was involved in that. Was president. I think their first president when they stood up the young adults. I do remember the picnics though,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you that just recently we've been going through mountains of pictures and slides, and came across a couple of the picnics out back behind St. Demetrius
Yes.
to the Charles River.
If you
Uh,
have any photographs that you can send me, I'll use them.
Mollysta.
I have heard of the infamous pink Cadillac. Do you remember anything about that?
No, I'm afraid I don't. Boss, do you
Yeah.
remember?
No.
Yes, Elaine Panagopoulos Ward told me that one of her uncles won the first raffle that they had. The first, and it happened to be,
An Azure ball.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And she said he used to bring it to every public gathering of St. Demetrius. He used to have that huge big Cadillac. so, so anyway, and what do you remember about the families at the time, Joyce?
Oh, we're all young families. I mean, the Bassett's,
Yes.
Angelo and his gang, yes, his children. They were a little older than my children.
Yeah.
Dacus and Vanjie.
Yeah, and then we had the
Karajanis.
Dacuses, right? Oh, the Karajanises, John Karajanis,
Yeah.
his son, who was a good friend of Richard's.
Lucky Kalyanides,
Oh yes,
Tina Haratzis.
yeah,
Oh.
Teen, yeah.
That's great. And what do you remember about the basement of the church, Joyce?
Oh, well, the basement of the first church.
Yes,
in
that's the one.
Lower Falls. You know, we had a lot going on down there. You know, it was a very very busy place, and yeah, and then you'd go right out from there into the parking lot and the back area where we had our picnics.
Do you remember when they brought the iconostasis from the church in Sanford, Connecticut? There were 3, 4 men who went because we didn't have an iconostasis, so the church down there was rebuilding, so they gave us their own. So 4 people headed by John Kondakis and George Macris and a couple of others went and brought it here. I have good testimony from people who remember that. But anyway,
Yeah.
and Richard, what do you remember? Your people, your age?
I will tell you personally, some of the most memorable events
Yes,
were around Holy Week.
of course,
Holy
yes.
Packed. The church was always packed from Palm Sunday all the way to Easter Sunday. In addition to being very moving, it was also magical.
Yeah.
And I just remember lines and lines of people outside of the church under the awning that they had set up outside of the church, lined up just trying to get in. And it was wall to wall. If the fire marshal ever showed up, we would have been in trouble. But throughout, the wall to wall people in the church.
Yes.
One thing about Holy Week, Lou Callas
Yes.
was the first one to put Holy Week together and did it until he passed away.
Oh.
He was always in charge of Holy Week.
Now,
And did a wonderful job.
now tell me about the transition to the new quarters in Weston. Do you remember that piece
Oh
of it?
yes. Oh yes, yes.
Yes.
The building of the new church.
Yes.
It was as I recall, it was a lengthy process.
Yes.
And they were looking at a piece of property initially
Correct.
was just off of Route 128 at the junction of
Yes.
120 Route 16, and that either fell through
It
or
fell
was
through.
not what they
Yes.
wanted.
It
They
was
also-
it was across from the now hospital.
Yes.
Yes. But that didn't work out, so it's now something else.
Right.
But
And then they also were looking at property at the former Blake estate, in Weston, Massachusetts.
Yes.
And that too didn't work out. And then they found this piece of property over in Weston, just
On,
opposite Brown Street,
right.
that
Brown
became
Street.
Yeah,
the
eventually. Now,
and, yes.
go ahead.
But I remember just one meeting after another. Some of them we were involved in, but I remember individuals like Bill Pavlogu being involved in some of the engineering work that was involved, ensuring that the perk tests were done on the grounds to make sure that the new structure could be supported by the land there. But this went on for years prior to 1971 in the construction of the
Right,
church.
right. Now, and the first priest in the new church was Gallus, was it?
Yes,
Father Gallo.
George
Yes.
Gallo.
And then I just spoke yesterday to Father Manicus, who has made history here because he's been the longest serving priest.
Yes,
He had some wonderful things to say about the church and the quality of the people. He said it has attracted people from about 50 area cities here.
Oh yes, they came from far away.
Yes.
I mean, suburbs were really expanded.
So, Joyce, what do you think has made St. Demetrius such a unique and prosperous parish?
Well, I think the people that were there initially, I mean, the gentlemen and the families that started St. Demetrius really have carried on, and the families have stayed with the church, and my heart goes with St. Demetrius on so many occasions. You know, it really.
When did you leave?
When I moved from Wellesley back in '87.
87.
Yeah, and then I moved up to New Hampshire.
So tell me the name of the city in which you are now.
Middletown.
Middletown, Rhode Island. Okay, I got it. What advice, both of you, as you are thinking about the new families that are now joining the church, what advice do you have for them?
By the whole church, it is a beautiful church. It's well run, and there's a great deal of love that is going out from it. I mean, I want to go back. I wish I could, but I miss it. I miss St. Demetrius.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and I was very glad to have met both of you. So that's all we'll do for today. Thank you very much for your time. We'll be in touch.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Καλό Πάσχα.
Allow me one last thing.
Yes.
We talked about the spirit of the church, why it's
Yeah.
successful. And I think that it is best summed up by a comment that George Skarakis made to me. We had come back for some event. I'd been away for many, many years. And we were talking about the church. And he said, they were talking about doing the renovations and the struggle to raise money. But he said, if the church burned down, they would rebuild it instantaneously tomorrow. And I think that expressed the pride of that community.
You're absolutely right. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.